Hi, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me well. Uh, Welcome to those who haven't had the experience of having a live call with me, and welcome back to those who have been with me since the beginning. And it's kind of, I guess, ironic, or it's kind of special to come back to the place where this whole thing started. And I'm going to take my time going through this remastered version. And I want to add elements that weren't in the original version. And I hope you've gotten acquainted with the original version because from today onwards, that version is not going to be there in existence anyway. And you're going to love this version a lot more. Why? Is because, first of all, this is going to be segmented better. When you went through the last beginners bootcamp, because it was the first time and hadn't gone through that experience, you just had day one, day two, day three. We had a lot of hiccups. We had a lot of people saying certain parts weren't syncing, certain parts of the video were cutting out. So I realized all of those complaints, but I had to let time pass for a time, times a time and a half. And getting back to the beginners bootcamp is a very special thing for me because this is where the SV school concept was born. And this is where we realized that we could really turn this village into an empire. And I believe we've gotten there. And we've gone through a lot of ups and downs as any movement goes through. Many people who have started this journey have gone to other places. Other people have passed away. Other people who gave up on Forex. So a lot of things have happened, but it's quite good that we've gotten to this point. So, long story short, I'll give you a brief history as to how we got started in this. I believe that the first course that was ever introduced was the Rhombus course, and that has pretty much been remastered as the Rhombus Mastery course. And those who are in that course are having the time of their life because they've been able to see the Rhombus in a new dimension. But I started my journey in 2016, and it was off the cusp of a breakup that I went through. So I'm going to give you a bit of background as to who I am before we get into the actual learning. If that's cool with you, drop a Y or a yes into the chat box. I want to be as raw with you guys as possible in this remastered boot camp. We're going to do this over 2 weekends because there's a lot more to cover. I actually want to make this 2 times the amount as the original boot camp. So I went through a massive breakup in 2016. I was engaged to be married, and I was engaged to be married to my godson's mother. So I was with him since he was born. I was the one that held him as he was born. I was there when he was born. Like, I actually saw everything. I became his godfather, and so he was the closest thing to me for a son, and I was the only father that he ever knew at that point in time. So uh, the his mother was a childhood sweetheart of mine, and we always crossed paths, but things didn't seem to match. So when we finally got together, we thought that this would be that happy ending sort of story that, single mother getting with a guy, and the guy's taking a son that's not his as his own, and all that stuff. Long and short of the matter is that money was given in hopes to have someone else have a clean record so that the two people can get a mortgage together. And it turned out not to be the case. And that was, I gave a sum of money that pretty much burnt me and ended me. And I started back at scratch again. I was out of my mother's house, which is every guy's dream. I was living on my own. I had a good job as a HR coordinator for a disability company. And I'd worked my way up from the floor staff, taking care of those who are mentally unwell, those who are physically and emotionally and mentally disabled. I was a carer, and I moved up to be a trainer and a facilitator to help those have a standard when it comes to that sort of training. So I was earning a good living. I had a car, living the job, wearing suits all the time, and all of that. Anyway, when the breakup happened, it came out of nowhere, and everybody knew, it was public knowledge that we were engaged. I was at the height of my ministry, so-called career. I was selling albums, uh, 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 you know, I was selling albums everywhere. I had received awards in London. I was top 10 in different parts of Africa. I was a gospel artist in my own right, and I had started preaching. So at that point, I was at my peak. and I felt like I had everything together at the tender age of, 25, and I thought, I had it made. And a lot of men are going to relate to me on this level, because I believe that all of us as men have had that tragic breakup, and I know women have gone through that as well, but I believe that every man has had that period where they thought that they were the one, and then all these things just came and bit us in the back. So after the breakup, she had made this declaration on my life, and that was, I had pretty much used you. Can you get this, right? Someone who I was friends with for over 10 years, and someone who had now had pledged to marry had turned around and said that I pretty much used you to get what I wanted because I knew you were head over heels in love with me. And by the way, your ministry aspirations and you helping people, that's not going to cut it for me because I need a rich man. And looking at you and looking at where you are, if you've been in ministry for that long and God hasn't elevated you, then God is not going to use you. And she mentioned names of men of God who had been preaching for years and were rich, and she compared me to those, saying, look at men like Dr. Sonny Badu, and look at men like Prophet Victor Kosibwati, and look at all these men of God. Look how revered they are. Look how respected they are. Look how rich they are. And look at you. I don't see my future with you. How many of us have gone through such an experience before, either male or female, where the one you thought would never betray you ended up being the one to betray you, and you're starting at the ground again? Many of you don't know this story about me. Many of you don't even know that I'm a gospel artist. Neither do you know that I've been a preacher for going on to 17 years. And it was at that point where I was at odds with my then spiritual father, who had, heard I said or did some things, apparently I did, and had told the whole church not to associate with me. So that was the lowest point in my life. And I remember January 16, 2016, I was going to commit suicide. And I remember this like it was yesterday, because I had done the walk of shame, going back home and going back to my mother's house and going back to my siblings and having to work and meet up with debt payments and do all these other things. And I said, like, this is horrible. This is not the life I wanted to live. And if God had promised all these things and all these men of God had prophesied all this greatness, then where is it? Where is it going to? Because I don't see it happening. And so I remember at that time, I was always in my room. I didn't eat for weeks. And, I was on alcohol. I was watching things, but at work, I was so professional and all that stuff. So it was around the middle of January where I decided that I just can't be bothered doing this anymore. It didn't seem like it was worth living on again, because I felt like I lost my purpose. I felt like ministry was not the avenue for me again. I felt depressed. I felt like everything should have ended. I was the black sheep of my family, the failure of the family that had all the promise in the world and had, come to nothing really. So I said to myself that I am going to watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air the entire 6 seasons. And I remember watching it on YouTube, and I said that after the last episode of season 6, that was it, because I wanted to carry a memory that would be happy before I go. And I went through all the emotional ups and downs of seeing Will and Uncle Phil have that moment where Will didn't have his father around, and I wondered why his father kept leaving him. And I had a moment, and I was thinking in my life that where was my father my entire life? He left me at the age of 4, left my sister when she was just born. We were homeless for pretty much a lot of our lives. We went through welfare, all these horrible stuff. So I was going through the motions of what Will was going through. And then I saw an ad on YouTube, because I was watching all this on YouTube, and it pretty much was a Forex / binary options ad. And the ad seriously went like this: do you want to make money from home? That's it. That's what got my attention. I wanted to make money from home because the motivation at that time was my ex-fiance, who I tried to win back, told me that in a long story short, you're not rich enough for me. So I was thinking that I needed to be rich enough for her. And it's not like she was like a woman that I could be in ministry with, but there was that love I had when she first came from Lebanon to Australia. I was the first one she met. So there was that connection that we had since we were kids. But I wanted to win her back, thinking that if I can just undo the shame of that public betrayal, then everything would be okay. So I went through it, seeing success stories of men going through the same thing, seeing people go through the same thing, saying that, they had lost so much money, but through a few years of trading, they were able to, travel around the world and teach other people and get their own house. And I'm like, oh man, this is so far-fetched. But then my suicide attempt was delayed because in between episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I was looking at how this Forex thing was working, how binary options was working. And so I was like, okay, so I won't commit suicide this week. Let me watch more on binary options. And that's how I got to know about candlestick patterns and all that stuff. So I was a student before I even traded. I just kept watching videos because the whole thing fascinated me. Moving on, obviously I didn't commit suicide, but I remember going to a church convention and one man of God called me and said, look, your story has trended around Australia. And I know many men of God don't want to associate with you, but I'm going to stand by you. And that is a link through Reverend Kojo Boating Bempa. His son was the one that reached out to me by the name of Sam Darko. Bishop Sam Darko. So he reached out to me and said that I want to be the one to bring you back on your feet. I know what you have contributed to the youth in Australia. When it came to youth ministry, my name was synonymous with that. So he wanted to pretty much help restore me. He said he had a job for me that he could only entrust me to do. And that was Sonny Badu was coming to Australia and he needed a driver that would be on the ball. He needed a driver that knew ministry things and that would be a militant. So he had my name in the hat to be the driver of Dr. Minister Sonny Badu. So I remember that we had the convention and the man of God put me on the spot and said that he wants me to perform one of my old songs called Delilah. So I went through the songs, I went through the motions, and I drove Dr. Sonny Badu to shopping, and he went shopping and he was blessing his wife. And I remember seeing it firsthand, how he was able to use his gift and help people and bless his wife and keep ministry all together. And so all throughout, me and him never had a word or a conversation to each other. But then on the final night, he said that the anointing was so heavy on him that he needed to release something on someone. And so he goes, where is my driver, Rodney? And I rushed to the front. I didn't have a haircut in weeks because I couldn't afford a haircut. I was wearing old clothes, and he called me forward and he said that there is going to be a mission for you in Africa. Don't ask me how, but it has to do with finance. And God is going to use you for a purpose to let Africans know that they can be financially literate. Now, this was February 2016, where I had this prophecy. And he said that I'm never going to make a mistake again when it comes to marriage. In fact, my wife is actually in Ghana waiting for me. This is in the same 2016. So he said that there's going to be a door that will open, and it will go through the doors of South Africa first. When that happens, whatever happens from there, whatever God leads you to do, do it. And you're going to go through many pains and many betrayals, but at the end of the day, everyone in Africa is going to know your name. And you're going to bring a new liberation and a new face of ministry. Now, imagine me at 2016. I know this is a long introduction, but I'm trying to gear you up to where we are now and where we are going. So imagine me at 2016, depressed, hearing this, contemplating suicide, and then seeing things now in 2020. And I'm like, wow, I've traveled to South Africa and Zimbabwe. I've gone to Namibia. I've gone to Benin and Togo. I've been in Ghana and I've settled here. I've gone to Nigeria, and all those things have now come to pass. And I didn't know then that it would be Forex. And I didn't know then that I'd be labeled a financial guru. But I wanted to be a life coach and help Africans have the same standard of life that I was having in Australia. So I remember booking a one-way ticket. And with my last money, I'm trying to cut the story short. I joined an MLM and I became a signal provider and all that stuff. But I went to South Africa, finally got to Ghana. And I remember one of the first nights I stayed in Ghana, I slept outside. I couldn't even afford to sleep anywhere. And I was like, God, you brought me here to start something. And I was actually called to leave outside of that MLM because I was given an ultimatum that if I didn't leave, I was going to be given everything I wanted, all the money, the TV channel, everything I wanted, but I had to leave Africa. And that ultimatum and that proposal was on my table. And God says, no, you're being called out of that to establish a movement that will be different to any other movement we have seen. And so when you have that back history, and I've just started with a rhombus course, and then the beginner's course was after that, this beginner's course opened the door for us to have mastery, university, the rectangle class, the brain hub, the honors class, the VIX master class. This place was the place that was the catalyst of it. So if you are here for the first time, understand that whatever you're about to learn, you need to throw it out the window. If this is the first time you've been exposed to Forex, I'm going to congratulate you, because you're going to be given information that is not common. If you have experience in Forex before and you're coming here, I'm going to fight against every popular thing that you know of and let you know that this thing isn't what you think it is. Okay? That is my story. And now you are part of my story. And the history that I've given is allowing me to have the goal that this philosophy will allow 100,000 Africans to be Mughals and millionaires here. They don't need to travel abroad. They're going to be Mughals in this land, and they're going to do what they've always wanted to do by trading and doing offline businesses. If you believe you are one of them, type in an amen into the chat box or drop an amen into the Telegram group. I am watching the Telegram group live as I am speaking with you. If you believe you are part of that, and don't think you cannot. Just yesterday, somebody made 15,000 US dollars. If he is here, he will say he's the one. Those in the VIX Masterclass know who he is. He made 15. I know you saw 10,000 at the end, but he closed positions earlier, let the thing ride, and he made 15,000 US dollars. Another person in Ghana is building their house. Another person in Ghana has been able to establish a pharmacy. Many people in Africa are living the life they wanted to live without having to work for someone else to be able to do it. And it starts here at the Beginners Bootcamp Remastered. Okay? So normally when I'm doing courses, I normally give an overview, but because this is the remastered version, I don't want to cage myself by sticking to 5 or 6 topics. I just want the spirit to flow. Will you allow me to flow in these next 2 weeks? Because there might be topics that I didn't intend to teach that it's going to be part of this. There's not going to be an increase of price. There's not going to be anything like that. It's going to stay at the same $40. But you're going to realize now that you're going to get double the knowledge for the same price. And for those who are already in, you don't need to pay any extra. So what we're looking to try and do is this. We're going to try and get to the aim of this bootcamp, why you need this bootcamp, okay? We're going to go into what is Forex, understanding what the bulls and the bears are all about, okay? We're going to cover perceptions of the Forex market, why some people cannot penetrate through, why some people are scared to invest. We're going to cover all of that. We're going to go through candlestick anatomy, times and seasons, pips, lot sizes, time frames, and then we're going to introduce something new, and that is the trading journal, about documenting your trades and keeping yourself accountable. I'm going to give you an extensive look at how to use Trading View. Then we're going to go into market structure, where you are going to identify what structure you are. You cannot be both. You have to choose one. And if you choose one and become that consistent from beginners all the way to honors, it's going to serve you wonderfully. Then we're going to talk in depth about resets and retest as well, which was not really part of the initial beginners bootcamp. So we're going to talk about other things like leverage. What does that mean? Why is it better to have lower leverage and all that sort of good stuff? But we're going to really get into this. And every now and then I'm going to task you with doing the homework. So I'm going to say, okay, let's do A, B, C, D, and get everyone to post into the Beginners Bootcamp Telegram group so that, you know, other people can join in the festivities. I want to get you to hashtag certain things that you will remember that will be key in your learning. But I am absolutely fired up with this Beginners Bootcamp Remastered. I hope you are too. And I hope after this, once you graduate and get your certificate, you can use your referral link now to be able to get a portion of the sale of what someone else pays for. And that wasn't really part of the Beginners Bootcamp last time around. We're now rewarding people for referring others to be able to go through the process like you have gone through. So I am ready. Let's get started.